a lot, but you know the whole population got infected already.
You try propaganda? What do you mean?
Not to do propaganda. Yeah.
No, but
Because
before.
I feel. No. I feel you may not call that as propaganda, but sometimes I feel a lot of people in Myanmar, they try to propagate each other. They try to dictate the others, something like that. If they think this is a good idea or this is a good concept, they want the other to adopt it. They want other to listen to them. This kind of attitude is going on. So we need to get out of this kind of attitude. I'm
You mean
really
like
afraid.
on all sides, not just the government.
Yeah, not just the government.
So for you, what is really the most important thing to be done in Myanmar in terms of pushing the boundaries and making real freedom happen in your society?
To make it short, I think every single one of my country should be truly independent. That's my aim.
Every single one of
my country, everyone should be independent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if they can be independent, they can just independent in their way of living, their way of thinking, their way of expression. That's my aim. That's why I think I cannot reach my aim yet.
Independent in what sense? I mean, in terms of
independent in not acting according to the pressure from either the states or the others. Independent in terms of
You mean like a free-thinking person thinking for himself or herself?
Yes.
But that's really, I don't know if there exists anywhere really.
I know. But I just wish.
But isn't there something more pressing at the moment that you feel should change in Myanmar?
Right now.
Or as president of PEN Myanmar, what would you like to see?
Freedom of expression.
Total freedom of expression.
Yeah.
We never really hear about. I mean, we hear about people getting censored when they write something political or something that's sort of opposing the authority. But how about other sort of like eroticism, for example, sexuality, for example? What are those issues like in Myanmar?
There are some books right now, some writers started writing, but their work itself, the artistic work itself, the writing skill itself is not that much reach the sense of the eroticism or sexism, but still there are so much intense criticisms already. So yeah, that's why I say no more state censorship, but the peer censorship and the self-censorship is going on. So that's why I think even only when we can encourage the whole population get improved in their education, knowledge, tolerance, everything, we cannot have true freedom. That's all related. Yeah, that's why I want them to be independent, to enjoy true freedom.
How long do you think it will take?
I don't know.
It seems to get better. I read somewhere that you're not really so optimistic about what it's like now in Myanmar, but to us, I mean, it seems like much better at least than before, than 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Why are you still pessimistic about Myanmar?
Not pessimistic, but you know in terms of peace and freedom of expression. It's also related, Until and unless we cannot defend the rights of the freedom of expression, we cannot defend the other human rights at all. So that's why if we cannot defend the basic human rights, how can we have a sustainable peace? That's why I have a big concern about my country itself. When we talk about peace, people just think about ceasefire or power sharing or resource sharing. Nobody just thinks, free yourself to accommodate the others. That will give us true sustainable peace. Otherwise, we cannot reach the peace. So going there, what we do need, freedom of expression should be as the medium to move. That's why maybe I'm too much.
How do you feel about? Do you think it helps that people in Myanmar now can get out of the country quite easily? Foreigners can go in and invest or do many things there now. Do you think that's going to help?
Yeah, that helps. But what I do believe is a lot of people are just saying, even for the peace, what we say is, okay, we should have equal rights. But what I do believe, without having equal knowledge and information, how can we enjoy equal rights? If you have lack of information or knowledge, you cannot enjoy your rights fully. So the others who have more knowledge and more information but same rights, that one can enjoy his or her own rights more than us, something like that. That's why what we do need is to having more, not only the equal rights, but also the equal information and knowledge. But the problem of Myanmar is that is missing. Not the whole population have same knowledge, same information to enjoy same rights.
Even now that it seems easier for them to get equal information, it's still difficult?
No, that's why I say the minority language rights is still missing. Most of the stuff is only in Myanmar and English language. How can they enjoy learning about that? How can they defend their rights since they don't know what their rights? That's another missing point. That's why we cannot have peace. Not only just the armed forces fighting each other, but because a lot of population are still much lack of knowledge and information to enjoy their rights. A lot of only handful of people are enjoying their rights through their knowledge.
Maybe we can take some questions from the audience. Anyone would like to share or ask? Yeah.
I just wanted to know what's Aung San Suu Kyi's role now? I mean, what is she doing? You're talking of sustainable peace. I was thinking of sustainable democracy. I mean, how much is that being pushed forward?
Well, yeah, that's why we having such a big concern right now. The peace process right now sounds quite promising, but raising a lot of concerns already. So that's why we really don't know. The problem is new government and new cabinet is trying to negotiate the army to have full authority. And another problem is we used to say the mid-level crisis. All the mid-level permanent secretaries and the civil servants, they having such a big inertia. They enjoying the corrupt systems already. They thought only the corruption can give them security and the prosperity. So that's another big challenge for the new government too. That's why I keep saying, until and unless we cannot change, we cannot have a social change. We cannot motivate people to change themselves. We cannot have a real change. We cannot just rely on the governments to change our society or our country. So Yeah, I'm interested in people rather than someone else or the government.
You mean there is a feeling now that even some people in the new government, they want to return to the old way?
Not that especially in the mid-level, there are the permanent secretaries and the mid-level hiring officers, because they are the hearts of the bureaucracy machine, and they have kind of the official authority, not the legal authority. They are not elected, but they have official authority because they entitled to this and that position. They know how to practice, but they have inertia, they have been saved by the corruption system. So they do believe corruption works. So they cannot get out of this easily. So that's the problem so far.
And Aung San Suu Kyi is... And the question was what is she doing now?
I cannot imagine. I'm still having another big question for her. Is she also free from fear? That's my question still. Yeah.
I think this is really fitting for the... because to me, a true contrarian is somebody who also not only questioning his enemies, but also questioning his peers, or when it doesn't matter who it is, but if something doesn't make sense, something is not reasonable, or something is wrong, then the contrarian has to question that. So, what is your criticism of Aung San Suu Kyi?
Yeah, that's indeed, even before the election, just before the 2015 election, I sent her 5 questions. It's all about, are you really free from fear? Something like that. But I got no answer whatsoever. Yeah, right now, sure, I have a lot of concerns about the way she handles the peace process also. This is very much important, but our peace process is not simply an argument between ourselves, our neighbors, not Thailand, but China. So how the new government's foreign policy, I'm still not yet clear. That's my also concern. Until and unless I wish not only myself but also the whole population should be informed more deeply into the new government's mission, vision, goal, and the way of practice. This is still missing. That's my concern too. Yeah.
Yes.
I have 2 questions. The first question is about your life in INSEC. I would like to know when you were in INSEC and maybe you were in solitary confinement, how do you know that there were someone outside the prison that trying to campaign for the release of you and other political prisoners? How do you learn? Because it should be very hard to learn about the outside world. And the second question is about, can you tell us about the impact of the international solidarity action during the 90s, comparing with the current context? Because the political environment in Myanmar has been vastly different. For example, like last year, there was a protest in front of the Burmese embassy on Sangkon Road for the release of prisoner of conscience. But I'm curious, is this kind of action in other countries like Thailand or maybe UK still relevant under the current context of this? For example, Burma is more open. It's not like the 90s. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, indeed, during the prison, I have no idea how much the campaign for my release has been gone. I really don't know much, but when I can meet my parents, every 14 days we can have 15 minutes So at that time, someone is note-taking, whatever we talk. But 15 minutes, even for 15 minutes, they making note-taking. But I learned a little bit Shan, a little bit Chinese, a little bit Thai also in the present. But my father can speak Shan in English and Chinese. So we use like the multilingual conversation to have some information from the, but it's not that much. That's my only when I was released. I noticed how much the whole war has been working for me. Yeah, I think. Yeah, you're right. The current context, I'm not sure. I wish that kind of international solidarity is still effective, but I'm not sure. The situation has been changed. I think because of the new IT technology. In the past, we have been looking for that kind of information through one or two sources, and when we got it, we having so much encouraged. But right now, the information overwhelming, and the information literacy, media literacy has been pretty much in big question mark. So that's why how much people could appreciate the information about these is still also big question mark. Yeah.
Any questions? Yeah.
How do you think globalization has affected people's freedom of expression in Myanmar? With obviously people coming in and out with different opinions, would that have an effect?
It's effective, I think. Yeah. In the past, majority of people, what we have been told is the integrity is the strength, something like that. That's why people don't want to have a different opinion. People didn't dare to say, I have different opinions. It's like you disloyal to our integrity. You breaking the strength of our integrity, something like that. But after having exposed to the war by the globalization, a lot of people, especially the young generation, they now dare to say, I'm different. I have different idea, something like that. So that's why I do hope for the young generation.
So there's no censorship on internet. I mean, people can go online and look at YouTube and everything freely now, or are there certain websites that are not allowed, that they're not allowed?
No, we can now. No proxy, no more proxy, no more prohibition. Yeah.
But there was that one film that was pulled out, the opening film of the human rights. It was it wasn't a great film, but it just showed the army in a negative light.
That's true. Yeah. I wish they should show, and then the people say, oh, this is not a good plan. But yeah, the response from the Ministry of Information is also very much disappointing. He told to the director of this Human Rights Film Festival, saying that I have no authority to intervene the censorship work.
Oh.
Yeah. So big question mark, who else will have authority since the minister himself? Yeah.
And it was pulled out even in Bangkok by the military government.
Yeah.
The same
But the book itself has been translated 3 versions already in Myanmar language. So a lot of people have been read. They know the context, they know the story already. No one can hide it. Yeah.
I think my question is related to that movie that just got banned. So I think given that Myanmar is one of the most diverse countries in the world, how do you foresee the government, the new system, overcoming cultural and ethnic differences and making it a more united country in the long run?
It's the hardest challenge we are facing, I think. This challenge we really do need to solve. And in that sense, I also want to rely on the younger generation. Old generation, we got infected with propaganda, censorship, poor education. So I think it's hard to make talking about sense of belonging. The whole throughout the history, states always say, you know, the government always say it's a government always say states government. That's why people cannot differentiate between states and the government. And the states never do anything good for its citizens. So it's like states, it just belongs to the government, not to the citizens. Then citizens feel they disowned by the states and they have no sense of belonging to the states. And then we are very different, very diverse, very then I think we cannot get back to our kind of national identity. Everybody just want to claim back own ethnic individual identity. Since we don't share sense of belonging each other, that has been missing. I really don't know how far this new government could rebuild this kind of sense of belonging each other in these 5 years. But I wish if we can get back there, we'll be better, especially for the sustainable peace.
Any questions?
You say sort of like you put your hope into the new generation, but in many countries now they cast out whether the new generation can be relied on, because in the new diverse and moving fast moving world, so even the old generation equipped with like the stable thought of way of thinking, it's hardly cope. But the new generations, they have to have many factors in their life, living and many things. So in that case, put it into Myanmar is new opening. It needs a lot of unite and direction, the clear direction. How do you see, especially the new generation, to cope with that kind of complex world, which like many developments from China, Thailand, blah, blah. So people who just like hello the world and then hello to the technology things, education system still not that stable. How, as experienced people, how do you explain it, or how do you see it?
Yeah, with the new technology, a lot of old generation thought new generations are more or less superficial and self-centered. But it's partly true, but it's partly, I think, we can manage because this is like the generations of the whole world, not as in Myanmar. So I think we need to understand them because, you know, we have been brought up in different war. They have been brought up in the very different and current war. But the old generations, we cannot just lead them or tell them what to do because this is the new era, not the old era. So we just need to encourage them and understand them. And if they are still yet superficial, we can still have, we just need to share our experience to help them with the you know, we used to say the later one will have a good lessons from the earlier one, something like that. So we should have shared our bad or good lessons to them. That's all we could do. Otherwise, how can we have a fruitful future? That's why I think, okay, we know this, they are a little bit more superficial than our generation, more self-centered because, you know, I used to say they now have their own window. In our days, we don't have our windows. We just need to share. Now they have their own windows. Everybody has their own windows. So they could just go out from their real world to the virtual world or back and forth. What we do need is just to help them with our old good or bad lessons to share, something like that. That's all we can do. But I still do have hope because since they have been exposed to the whole war since they were young, at the same time, they're not self-centered in that sense. They might be superficial, but they are more like horizontally big or wide. Not very deep, but more wide. So it's okay.
Yeah, in fact, I found that interesting because when Aung San Suu Kyi came here, the only informal or unofficial thing she did was talk to students. They got together 200 students and I was there. They invited the media, but the media were not encouraged to ask questions, but the students were allowed. And she said that the entire hope and future lies with the students and I'll take your questions and you need to think for yourself. And she seemed to go a lot for the youth also.
Well, I guess there's always danger in. I mean, I think this question applies to almost everywhere in the world, but in a place like Myanmar, maybe it's slightly because of the history and the situation within the country. But there's always danger in people becoming more individualistic or caring about their own entertainment in their daily life and not knowing or being so concerned about social issues. So that's, I think, always questioned anywhere really. Here also in Thailand there is concern about that too. So in a time when there needs to be more people, pushing for change, but everybody is catching monsters, so maybe that's a problem, but I think also it gives people more a taste of freedom, and when, especially in a place like Myanmar, when you have tasted that, I think in a way you can learn to know what it's like to be free or to be in a freer society, and maybe that would inspire people to at least be against totalitarian rule, So, I mean, in the past maybe it was poverty, but now maybe when kids are not allowed to go online or they're not allowed to play something, then they would rise up, against the authority.
That's true. And then, sometimes self-centered is in good sense. If you're taking care of yourself pretty well, we don't need to bother any government to take care of the people. Every single people, if they are independent enough to taking care of themselves, I wish that by doing that, we can change the world. So, take care of yourself well, love yourself well, we'll walk.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how the young people have a chance to change how Myanmar people look at life and want change. What does the education system look like in Myanmar? Would that give people the opportunity or take it away?
The key problem of Myanmar is the education. Very poor education system, one way, no interactive teaching, no interactive learning, and it's just memorizing. So that's why I used to say only propaganda and the censorship will blind your eyes, both eyes, but the education systems make you intellectual blind. So that's the suffering we having. That's why we truly need to change our education system. Only after changing the education system, the country will get full strength back.
But if young people today have access to internet and they learn about the world on their own, they would, I don't know, maybe eventually lose faith in state education. I mean, or at least question what they're being taught every day.
Yeah, I think, but the problem is right now the active populations are more or less like the lost generation. The coming up generation has promising because their basic education is pretty much better, but the lost generation is the key player right now, either in political fields or economics or social or literature, because it's more or less my generation, next generation, two generations we already lost. So that generation, we cannot become a good human resource for the country. So it's like a pretty hard to overcome that. But for the younger, that's why I do have a more hope on the younger generation. They have a little bit better basic education, then they can be the contributors for the country. But even for the lost generation, even though they have more interest, eagerness, anything, but they have no capacity whatsoever. So that's why I said we have a lost generation.
How does Myanmar view Thailand under a military government? The media, the country, the people?
I think we feeling not very happy with this kind of situation, even though we notice the Thai military is different from our military, but we really don't. I think the whole population, the Myanmar population, don't like any kind of the military coup. So we so sick of it. Yeah, that's why we cannot decide. We cannot have a right response towards the Turkish, what's happening in Turkey. We sick of the military coup, but a lot of people don't know what kind of the current government in Turkey is. That's why they just against the military coup. That's another big question mark. Yeah, we so sick of military coup, so we don't want any country have military coup.
Anyone?
Okay, one more. In your generations, books or writing can be the seed of thought and change. Clearly, I mean, for your people. In this generation, what is the role? I mean, how is the role of those kind of things? I mean, in other society, you has a big question mark. And if not, or if it's much less role, what is the new state of change in your perception?
Well, according to a research done by Asia Foundation, their question is how people get information. What's their sources? The very top sources is quite amazing, friends and neighbors in Myanmar. So that's why we have a very big concern. The next are TV and radio, and the from neighbors and friends, it's around about 40%. The information source. So source from newspaper and the print media is only 10%. So that's quite alarming. Yeah. It's the research is for 2014. So it's very much alarming to us. That's why the role of TV and radio also very much important. But both of them are still pretty much commercial, not the community radio, community TV, not yet. That's why I might say it's quite alarming and quite dangerous. People it's including the younger generation, people just rely on each other's mouths, something like that. So it's really dangerous. So we need to solve this problem also.
But that's, in that sense, is it mean they don't trust all kind of media because it contradicts to what they feel?
No, access to print media is also pretty much limited also.
Yeah.
Compared to the TV and media,
Yeah, if you have more choice, but
yeah,
you
but
get it, but you don't.
Yeah, I think people prefer the print media as the more reliable source. Yeah, but still their source of information is the other people's, something like that. So it's very much interesting.
Yeah.
Where do the friends and neighbors get their information?
Yeah, that's why I think the problem is now because of the more and more mobile service provider is getting into the country, people just use the social media as especially Facebook, as the source of information, and then they just spread it, something like that. So it's quite worrisome. Sometimes people share if you eat the pineapple, you might get infected HIV, something like that. Still, they do. Yeah.
But are there people in the arts who are influential to the common people now? Would you say
Not
they're...
the whole population, that's why I say that access to literature, access to print media is pretty much limited. So the influencing these, but the thing is now literary talks are very popular. So nearly every town or every big cities having a literary talks. Now print media people having literary talks, not writing. A lot of people, they don't read their works, but they do listen to them, something like that. So role of the literary talk is also now much important. Yeah, because it's reached to the grassroots. Yeah, but it's still question mark. Some talks are not really good, something like that, not interesting, something. Yeah.
But how about commercial arts? I mean, do you have very popular writers who everybody reads, or do you have artists that everybody knows and things like that?
Well, still not much. I think our another problem is centralization. So that's why even though the famous artists, famous literature, we cannot reach to the certain amount of population, especially ethnics, who cannot speak Burmese, who cannot understand what is art, even.
Anyone?
It's the ethnic Rohingya problem also. Aung San Suu Kyi has been criticized for a long time.
Yeah, that one is quite complicated one. The context is very complex. That's why I think she doesn't want to comment on it. But I wish she could just say something, her stance, principle on the minority people's rights. Yeah, not simply a particular population, but there are a lot of the minority peoples still suffering. For example, recently in Naga state, altogether more than 40 people, including kids, has been passed away because of the measles infection. But when it started, people really don't know what it is. Even to diagnose it is measles, they cannot afford. They really have no knowledge what it is. They were having a big fear, and reaching to the Naga state is such a terrible thing. No cars can reach out, so people need to carry everything. And by the time when the group of doctors, when there already more than 40 people already passed away, something like that. So in these kind of ethnic people, they suffer worse. And that kind of minority people should be well acknowledged and well managed by the government.
Yeah.
First is from my understanding about the reading culture in Burma is quite strong. From my something that I heard, during the country still not open yet, many exile media also produce, and also in Myanmar itself, a lot of the bookshop, the publisher is so that's why I interpret as a reading culture in Myanmar supposed to be strong for that. When you said the people learn from information or from something else, it also surprised me a bit. That's also surprising because from my understanding, the people in Myanmar, the literacy rate is very high, and the people have the culture of reading. Pretty much that's one thing. And the second question is about: is there any kind of the sentiment or feeling of the people in Myanmar that worried about the if they request too far, it can bring them back into the some sort of the closed door again. That kind of sentiment is there.
Well, yeah, I know the reading culture, the serious reading culture has been ours in the past. But I think because of the pretty bad education system, I used to say the literacy rate is quite high, but they stop there. Information literacy, media literacy, literature literacy is pretty much limited now, nearly very non-existing. Even in the social media at the Facebook, some writers need to say the following is a satire. Please don't read as something like that. So the reading is not still very much effective for these people. And yeah, one group of people, they think if it is too open, too free, we cannot be safe. That's why rather not. Or the past government is still right, something like that. That's going on. But there are not many. And I think the thing is the fear is not simply going back. Also, I used to say I have a big fear about stagnation, the stasis, where we are and we cannot go further, something like that. That's the problem because people really don't know what's the standard of the freedom, what's the standard of the basic human rights, what's the standard of the democracy. So then, for example, like right now, people enjoying the press freedom. Oh, no more the press scrutiny board. Stop there. So cannot move forward with the freedom of expression the other. So that's also the problem. A lot of people still having the problem with the military might coup again anytime if they don't happy with the current situation. That's also a common feeling.
You mean once there is supposedly expression, people feel like, oh, that's good enough, then they don't push any further, right?
Yeah, that's one option. Yeah, they enjoy that much. Okay, that's all.
I think we'll close with update on what you're doing. So are you still practicing physician? You're still a doctor, and also traveling a lot. I know you just came back from Europe recently, and are you working on a new book?
I'm working mostly as an editor and no more doing surgery, just practicing as a general practitioner once a week, but not very regularly right now because of the travel. I do intense traveling, and really because I go back home, and on 19 I go to Mesa, and next month Europe again, and US and Australia, something like that. So it's very much interfering me to work on one book. But I'm now working on a book. It's about it's for a women organization, and they asked me to write about that. So it's all about the situation of women's and women's rights for my Myanmar audience, and I also thinking of starting a new novel, and hopefully in 2017. It's about a town. It's not about a human being. It's about a town in the fiction form, but I don't know whether I can have time to start.
This is interesting. We were talking about this plan of yours to write this novel, and you said that you wanted to make it about a town and without any sort of characters that have names or... So this is another experimental fiction.
Yeah, I think the character itself will be a town. Yeah.
How do you see that? I mean, how do you plan to structure that so that it reads as literature?
Well, you know, the nature itself can be good expressions to the atmosphere. So I will just elaborate the landmarks of this town and its history to elaborate what town it is and how we should look at the town it is. That's the way I imagine. Yeah.
I think it's be a good time to conversation. Thank you everyone for coming. This is actually very, I feel very privileged and special to be because not only because of who you are, but really because as a Thai person learned in Thai school, we are taught that Burmese people are atheists. So I never thought, as a young person that I would one day be sitting and talking to a person from Myanmar. So this is very special. Thank you for coming, and thank you everyone for being here tonight.
Thank you everyone.